We're so hyped about this, we don't have to wait any longer. Game number 2 is ready. Vortix and 1Puppypaw. Game 1 was, c'est la magnifique. So it only seems fitting that the second game will feature the French.
Oh, mon dieu, it's only second game of the series. We have already been treated with such a spectacular game number 1, and here we are with the Rus versus the French on Dry Arabia, as conventional as it gets. Old school matchup on an old school map, a meta that both of the players are very familiar with, so you probably expect to see things that you have already seen before at one point in competitive Age of Empires 4, and this is gonna come down to execution, to fine details, rather than crazy strategies coming from either side.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what I love about this. Like the French, anytime you see French, you know, there's going to be this kind of micro-intensive element, and I think it's another opportunity to show off. And I think the interesting part to me is whether 1Puppypaw is even going to try to engage on the cavalry side, because I find more often than not, it tends to be in your side. You can use the Rus Knights rather against French Knights, but it's more as a tank unit. You're still going to rely heavily on archers, which sounds weird against heavy cavalry, but some of the most successful games I've seen for Rus versus French in Long Feudal is where you build maybe 15-20% knights, and you just use them to like tank the incoming fire from the French Knights.
Yeah, indeed, as you said, it's suboptimal to use the Rus Knights against the French Knights, because obviously any damage that you take is permanent as opposed to the French, and obviously the French, probably an even bigger bonus for their Feudal Age Knight versus Knight fights, is the fact that they are going to get that extra attack after a successful charge. So in these very delicate micro and charge scenarios, the French Knights will just dominate over the Rus, and you don't want to be making the same type of unit if you're the Rus player when you have a weaker version of that unit, right? So you try to deviate from it a tiny bit, and you're essentially the one that has to dictate the unit compositions, because the French unit composition in Feudal Age is pretty well given. It is the Rus that can play around that and try to force something out of the French player.
Yeah, I think like the interesting way to think about Rus Knights is like they're not meant to just win you the staged fight. They're meant to raid, right? They basically do what the French Knights do. So the whole idea is that usually the Rus have a slightly better economy around 10, 12 minutes than the French, just because of the extra 20% drop-off and the Golden Gate as well. So if you go into stables, it's just to build a few knights to basically just be discount French, right? And chip away at the opponent's economy. And I don't mind that play, especially if 1Puppypaw gets a really good start, which the moment, decent start here. Looks like he's actually going to easily crack the 300 bounty mark at this rate.
Yeah, this is a pretty good start. Ensures that he's gonna be able to squeeze in Wheelbarrow. And you see, he feels confident about the bounty because he already started researching it, so he knows fully well he's gonna have sufficient for Feudal. In fact, he already has, and he's yet to kill 4 wolves. So not only is he gonna crack the set tier 2 bounty, it is also going to be beyond 300, in the range of almost 350 without the boar. Spectacular amount of bounty collected.
It's probably going to be about 360, 365 with all the sheeps included. Like, this is a really good start for 1Puppypaw. Also, something to keep in mind, you mentioned like the boars, like look at the south side. They're both situated down there. This is like prime territory to try and go for a TC expansion. Do need to be careful though. Like, you are up against the French and they will try to rush out that first night. So if you want to make that pull, you're going to need to bring about 10 villages. And it is an incredibly risky pull to make. But 1Puppypaw, like it's a type of thing, like it's high risk, high reward play. Like, you're one game up. And if you do get that TC down the south side, it's very difficult to see a way in which Vortix can get rid of it.
Yeah, given the distance of those boars to the TC of 1Puppypaw, I would say it's ultra high risk, high reward.
Yes.
So you really have to be thinking about something crazy here to go for the second TC of the Rus down south over there, especially against the French. I feel like it's more likely that Vortix is going to expand there with the second TC, and 1Puppypaw should be the one trying to deny it. I don't know. I feel like for 1Puppypaw, even just expanding towards the board with a standard tower and a hunting cabin is a bit of a long shot, because it just takes so much time to walk over there. Villagers left so exposed to those knights. I don't think he can realistically go for those wars with high confidence or high safety.
I think it's a variance play based on scouting vision of your opponent. The issue is like 1Puppypaw doesn't actually have the positioning of his scouts to inform the play. Like right now he's pitched them over on the gold vein, which means that he doesn't know that Vortix has one patrolling his area. So if he actually does make this pull of villages now, it's 100% a gamble. And I think we still could see that pull. Like, we've seen the same opening from Lidakor. Didn't end very well. But the difference is that I think Vortix might end up being a bit slow onto knights. And knowing his kind of playstyle is variance, like, I wouldn't be surprised if he's considering a second TC in the French build by 10 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, that would be very likely. There's a nice pick off of a scout over here for Vortix. Nice micro out there. Keeps all of his scouts alive. But yes, I do agree with you on this one. I think that it is a little risky to go for the same approach that Lidakor has taken, going for a Spearman. We have seen that with good micro, you can deny the opponent from going for a TC. And it is a given that PuppyPaw is going for a second TC. You can see Morty buying 150 stone. The question is not whether he is going for a second TC. The question is where exactly that is going to be positioned at.
I think it's going to be on the deer in the gold vein to the southeast. It's just the
Yep.
most logical play, because the problem is like there are certain civs you can do these delayed timings on to build initial units where you go around 6.5 or 8.5 minutes towards the ball play. But the French is not one of those civs you can do that against. Like by that time, they've got 4 knights out in the field, and those knights will pinch you.
Yeah, also, Hardened Spearman upgrade also in for PuppyPaw. So he wants to ensure that that town center really goes up. He's going to have the stone for it. Wood is also going to be there in a second. And it very likely seems that he's going to drop that TC. As you said, towards that Southern Hunt and the gold, he has been sending the Spearman out there to protect that position. Question is when Vortix is going to scout that, because Vortix is yet to spot that new town center being built. Should anticipate one coming up. But
yeah,
he doesn't
he's
have vision
wrapping
on it.
now on the east side. He's about to come round. He'll spot this going up. But the cool thing about PuppyPaw, notice that he didn't hesitate to pull half his worker force to get this up. It's really important that he done this.
Yep.
It's worth it as well because the deer in the area. Pulls 10 villagers, has enough room to garrison if they get a sword, and has enough spears to hold back the first knights.
Indeed, that's a key thing out there, as you pointed out. You want to rush that TC up as fast as possible because, to a certain extent, you are on a timer when it comes to that. And Vortix, seeing the TC near completion and the Spearman defending, he isn't even going to bother trying to harass that. Instead, he's going to try to get a charge on the Lumberjacks, possibly from the north.
And we see the difference in the series we saw earlier, right? Where the opponent tried to play to mid-map, so it's shorter distance. It meant the Vortix would have got the 3rd knight there if PuppyPaw went for the ball pull. Probably the 4th knight with that distance. This way around, like, Vortix could not even get 1 knight in position before that TC goes up. And now he has to make his reactionary play. He's going for his own TC expansion. But the curious detail to think about here is, like, PuppyPaw can now extend his base and look towards castle. Like, his win condition is to reach castle now with as limited time spent in feudal as possible.
Yeah, obviously doesn't want to stay long in feudal against the French, especially knowing that his opponent is also playing 2 TCs. So for Vortix, he's going to be spending his resources on eco first, so we're not going to see a ton of aggression coming up from him. It's a clear identification from PuppyPaw to see the second TC. He knows that Vortix won't be pushing him, so he could have a clear path to castle.
Yeah, I actually love this TC formation on Dry Arabia. Lucifer and Vortix are the main players that do this. I think Neutral Bear also has some variants play with this, but they're the only players that come to mind that regularly do this TC placement. The reason, logic behind it, is that when you put yourself up against the edge of the map, your opponent has limited flank opportunities. They have to come at you forward, right? This is especially effective against heavy cavalry-based civs because they don't have the same rotation opportunity that you're now seeing Vortix get up against PuppyPaw that has this TC out in the middle of the opening with a 360 surround opportunity.
Ooh, nice little raid coming in here from the Knights, idling the gold miners for the time being. Some chip damage on the Knights, but obviously they will heal back, or at least they should be. It's gonna be close. Knight gets away.
Wrong knight. He was attacking the other one in the end. So, feels pretty confident about this. It's 6 spears compared to 3 knights. Like, PuppyPaw is not escalating. Remember what we said, is he's trying to skim his way through. He doesn't want to stay here a long time, because the longer this goes on, the bigger the knight mass, and what eventually happens is that Vortix will get his castle transition, and it will likely be a Royal Institute, which means Royal Bloodlines, which is never fun for anyone facing the French.
Yeah, it's never fun. Well, except for the French. Ooh, beautiful hits with the Spearman. Actually finds a weak knight.
Almost gets a second. Dude, that all aggro on the return, Vortix was not expecting that. It's an unorthodox strategy.
He killed
Like,
the only
really
scout Vortix had. Vortix is playing blind right now.
Meanwhile, PuppyPaw still has 2 in the field. He lost 1 early in that scout exchange, but now he has wide vision. He can kind of see where the expansions are coming in. And actually, you can see that PuppyPaw is guarded on the north side. I want to see him move that scout, because right now he doesn't know what the lay is. I think he's keeping it there because he wants to know if Vortix is rushing towards a tech up based on how many villages are on the gold.
Indeed, and he's going to have a good vision on those gold miners. He's going to see quite a lot of gold miners out there, so that should give him a pretty good clue of what Vortix's game plan is going forward with the castle age timing. I also love how he's playing this one safe, trying to wall himself up, actually getting that knight walled in there for a brief moment.
Oh, no! Okay, looks like you're rebooking the room for the night, sir. Welcome back to the Roos Hotel. You're never leaving.
Napoleon being fought against by the entire European nations. 1815 colorized. You really get that feel.
I mean, that war did come to a grim turnaround for him when he arrived in Roost territory, so historically fitting right now.
True that. Knight also moving in though, getting a little chip damage on those gold miners, not much, but as you pointed out, this is what you want to do with your Knights if you're Rus. It's not like you're gonna do tremendous damage, but a bit of a harassment is never bad.
And now with the Spearman here as well, like the whole idea is he wants to slow down Vortix's escalation because of what we talked about, the whole idea, like when Vortix gets to about 20 Knights, if he isn't taking fights, he's just gonna chill and tech up. So you need to kind of turn the screws, and the Spearmen are the bonus damage you need to kind of make it a good exchange. You can see the main battalion slow behind this, but even in that exchange, the damage done is going to reset Vortix and stop him from pursuing into the eco for another 30 seconds.
Indeed, and time is precious over here, as both of the players will be thinking about Castle Age at one point. Once again, the Knight comes in for a raid. Small damage being done, but it's annoying, right? You have to pull away the villagers, you lose a villager every once in a while, and that helps offset the eco advantage that the French were supposed to have, given the fact that they have faster training villagers, but they don't even have it. 49 villagers to 45 in the favor of the Rus, so it's actually better than one would think.
Yeah, one thing that is not good for 1Puppypaw though is he's been over-leveraged onto the north side of the map. I don't even know if he knows about the secondary TC still. The stone outcropping is hidden on the south side.
He knows about it. He spotted as it was being built.
Okay, but here's the awkward issue then. If he knows about the TC extension, what's the priority on the north side? There's so many gold veins on the south, and as we just noticed, Vortix has now gone for the ball. It feels like 1Puppypaw is being baited in the way that he's built his base, and now the way he's pushing out north.
Well, he's being rewarded with villager kills over here over and over again. There are a lot of gold mines to the south.
Oh my god, Vortix, come on! That's just nasty! The reaction's so slow, and look at the pathfinding! Oh my goodness!
Oh, and he taps out!
That's it! That's insta-GG. Vortix, oh my goodness. Game 1, the micro was off the mark as it went on. Well, guess what? It went on so long that 1Puppypaw is warming up in the micro department while Vortix is looking ice cold right now. 2-0 down, and 1Puppypaw is getting vicious.
Oh man, punished so heavily, and there is the answer to your question. What is he doing on the north? Exactly this. He saw that Vortix was committed to that gold mine without having sufficient defenses for it, and he just decided to commit. I think the raids, the efficiency of those raids went way beyond the expectations of 1Puppypaw. He wasn't hoping to get like half the villagers than what he got, but as you said, slow reaction from Vortix allowed him to get so many villagers here, close the game out, didn't even have to bother killing the villagers on the board on the south, and those Rus Knights paying for their price, hitting the gold miners, hitting where it hurts, secure game number 2 for 1Puppypaw.